Okay, and we have TNA Bound for Glory this Sunday, pay-per-view from San Diego, and we are very happy to welcome into the Mike and Billy Show the greatest man that ever lived, Austin Aries, Triple Crown champion. A-Double, how you doing?
What's up, Mike and Billy in Boston? Good to talk to you guys. What's going on?
Just settling in for the evening. I understand. You on the West Coast?
East Coast. My friend down in Clearwater, Florida.
Oh, so
Hey.
so we're both settling in for a nice
The
evening.
Wrestling Haven, just right down the street from my buddy Hulk Hogan.
There
You go. And we're actually going to want to talk to you a little bit about Hulk in a little bit, but we have the Ultimate X match this Sunday with yourself and 4 other great competitors in it. You're confident. You seem like a confident man.
No.
Carry yourself well. But this is one of those matches that anything can happen. What's your thoughts on it?
Man, yeah, I am confident. Even being outside of my comfort zone, which is what the Ultimate X puts me in. As you alluded, we got a couple other former world champions in there, Chris Sabin, Jeff Hardy, Samoa Joe, and you got the current X Division champion Manic, who's obviously looking to go out and prove himself as a worthy champion. But really, it's so unpredictable. The concept of the match is something different than there's anywhere in professional wrestling. Scaling a rope 20 feet above the ring to try to unlatch the X Division championship. That comes with a certain level of risk, and I think we all know that going in. The fans know that, and that adds to the excitement and the unpredictability of it.
Now, you mentioned, you're going to be a little out of your element for this. I had read, and again, we all know how credible Wikipedia is, but I had read on your Wikipedia that you're actually against gimmick matches. Is this still something that you're very much against? Is it more of the ladder matches? Is it more of obviously it's the danger factor, right?
Well, again, I don't know who writes Wikipedia yet, but it's not that I'm against those type of matches. I just, if you ask me what my favorite type of match is, I'm not going to tell you it's a ladder match or
Right.
or a Ultimate X type of match. Yeah, there is a elevated physical risk that we all take. We know mentally going in exactly what's going to happen, no matter, to go and put that type of match on, you already assume a certain amount of damage is going to be done to you, and that you're going to feel a certain way the next morning. And so it's not necessarily something to look forward to. I absolutely think those matches have their place in professional wrestling. I'm just a big proponent of the less that we see those type of matches, the more that they mean when we actually get a chance to witness them.
Well, and it's certainly it's going to keep you in the ring competitive. Just talking longevity in your career, because you're not getting, you're facing a lot more injury, as you said, with those types of matches.
Yeah, I mean, you have no choice but to. I mean, that's what the match dictates. And again, I grew up in an era where when wrestling was a little more of a longer scope. The patience of the viewing audience was different, and so when things got built up and there was a big blow off type of match, and there was maybe not ladder matches back then, but you had the bull rope matches.
Mm-hmm.
You had the coal miner's glove match. You had a lot of these, you had a lot of these different matches that were special and unique, and because it was usually a blow off to something that had been built up, there was that anticipation to see it. Night of the Skywalkers. I mean, you want to talk about, one of the craziest, as a kid, seeing that and seeing those guys up on that scaffold and watching Cornette take that fall. I mean that this is kind of a modern day version of that. But those matches happened few and far between.
Right.
So when you got a chance to see them, it was a really big event. And I just, so to say that I'm against the matches or I don't like them, I think maybe is stretching it. I just think that I like them to keep that unique and special quality, which is less is more. Is going to be the way.
You don't want to oversaturate them.
Don't want to oversaturate them. Don't give away too much of the good stuff.
Right. Save it for the money nights.
Save it for the money nights. That's right.
Well, absolutely.
Which is Bound for Glory. I mean, it's the biggest pay-per-view of the year. So if you're gonna have an Ultimate X match with a bunch of former world champions and the current X Division champion, I mean, that would be the night to do it, wouldn't it?
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
San Diego got lucky.
Yeah, no kidding. But we were at a Slammiversary in Boston over the summer, and we actually got an Ultimate X match as well, and it's an entertaining match. And especially you have multiple guys in there, and it's one of those anything can happen matches. But also that night they announced that Kurt Angle is going into the TNA Hall of Fame. Have you wrestled Kurt? And if so, what are your thoughts on him?
We've gotten there a couple of times. remember in a live event, we had a match, and I think in one of those one-night-only pay-per-views we got in there. I mean, I would love an opportunity to do an extended program and really, have a whole slew of matches with Kurt, now that he's back, and I think, he's coming back stronger than the time before. So, I don't think that there's anything that really needs to be said about Kurt Angle that hasn't already been said. The guy's, going to go down as one of the greatest amateur wrestlers of all time, one of the greatest professional wrestlers of all time, and just a real special individual.
Now, did you grow up in the Florida area?
I grew up in the Midwest, just outside of Milwaukee. I'm a vegan cheesehead.
So growing up, and I actually looked and found we're actually the same age. So growing up, we were probably watching a lot of the same wrestling. Who did you grow up idolizing? Who was your favorites coming up?
I just remember that whole era. I started watching the AWA, and I remember, Bobby Heenan kind of sticking out, and you had Bockwinkel doing his thing there, and then really Crockett, I think, is the stuff that really grabbed me. And,
right.
The Horsemen were running wild.
Yep.
Midnight Express, Rock and Roll Express.
Yeah.
Dusty. Even going back a little bit before that, I remember Jake Roberts and Red Karate Pants, doing the DDT before he was the Snake, and Buzz Sawyer, and even Tommy Rich having a crazy feud. So that was the stuff I grew up on. Sprinkling a little World Class Championship Wrestling or anything that I could tune that little white button inside the old school television set to pick up. I'm also I was tuning it one day, and all of a sudden I was watching, I think Mid Atlantic or something came on, and I remember it was the Master of Pain was in the ring, who later became the Undertaker.
Yeah.
So I remember all that kind of stuff. But really, anything I get my hands on. Of course, WWF was on as well at that time, and
sure.
Saturday Night's Main Event, would be something I'd try to stay up for once a month when that was on, and so really just kind of whatever wrestling I could find, I'd take in.
So you were a fan from the start.
Yeah, man, I tell the story. I'm a little ashamed to tell it now, all things considered, but 4 or 5 years old, and I was big into GI Joe and military. My family's got a military background, and I was kind of on that path, and then. I saw Buck Rock and Roll Zumhoff with the old boombox and the jumpsuit coming down to the ring or whatever. And, I was at the time kind of in breakdancing and stuff. So I was like, here's this guy with the boombox on his shoulder. Like, this is kind of cool. And just from there, just started watching it and went to my first show. I think I was about 84 maybe at the Mecca Arena. And I believe it was Hogan versus Blackjack Lanza and Bobby Heenan in a cage.
Wow.
So, Ray Stevens was on the card, and honestly, it was kind of funny. I went to 2 events when I was about 5 or 6 years old, and then I didn't really attend another wrestling event until I was actually in the business. I just always kind of watched it from afar.
Sure. Now, when did you decide that it was something you wanted to do?
The moment that I actually saw the ring set up in the ring, and that my buddy wasn't kind of BSing me about training to be a wrestler, because up until that point, it never crossed my mind how you'd even get in the business.
Sure.
The internet wasn't quite as accessible as far as all the information we can find out these days through the different search engines. So, I wouldn't have even known where to even get into wrestling. I wasn't too privy to the local independent scene or things like that. So, when a long-time really good friend of mine called me up kind of out of the blue and said, "Hey, I'm in Minneapolis training to be a wrestler," and I was just like, "You're what? Like, what do you mean just training to be a wrestler? You just go to some wrestling school?" He said, "Yeah, here with Eddie Sharkey and Terry Fox," and the name Eddie Sharkey obviously was one I was familiar with all the guys he's trained over the years. So I was like, I got to check this out because I'm not sure I believe you. So, I drove up there and saw that ring set up in Terry Fox's garage, and the moment I saw it, I said, "All right, this is what I'm going to do with myself." So, moved up on his couch about a week or so later, and haven't really looked back since.
I'm sure to a lot of people, you said you're going to go to wrestling school. It's probably like, telling other people you're going to clown college or something. Like, what? There's schools? What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's kind of, it's hard. It always ends up in some conversation you don't really want to have with people. Just in general, honestly, a lot of times I tell people I'm in the circus because it's a lot easier conversation to have. Because once you say you're a professional wrestler, you got to answer about 16 stupid questions in about 12 seconds.
Right.
And of course, the first one is it's fake, right?
Right. Well, so's politics, but everybody's all wound up about that and think that really picking the offense or the defense of the same team is a choice.
Yeah.
You're going to tell me a two-party system isn't the biggest ruse and work that's going today? Everyone buys into it and yells at the other side, not realizing they're part of the prank. They're all Truman.
Oh yeah.
You ever see the movie Truman with Jim Carrey.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If you buy into politics and you really believe that's real, and you believe that President Obama is really the guy that makes all these bad decisions, you're Truman. They're all looking at you laughing because you're buying the gag.
You're in the movie. You're doing it. You're in the reel.
And I really do believe that. I said professional wrestling, we're the only escape from reality that admits that we're an escape from reality. You got all these other professional sports that have had allegations for years about funny business, referees in the NBA on the take.
Yep.
Nobody's going, hey, that stuff's fake.
Right.
Well, I always try to say to people, professional wrestling, it's not fake, it's fixed. That's
Right.
it. There's nothing fake about it. I've seen you guys getting injured, and
right.
I mean, you can't fake that.
And the word fake is just, it's misplaced. I said this, professional wrestling is the most real form of entertainment on the globe.
Mm-hmm.
Because, every movie, every television show you watch that you like, that's 10 times more fake than what I do, because they get as many takes as they need, they get a stunt double when they want it,
right.
Their script is rigid, and it's a lot of smoke and mirrors. And what we go out there and we do live, we do it one take, no fancy cameras, no stunt doubles, no rigid scripts. We go out there and we create. We create magic, and nobody else does that in any other industry. And I'll take anybody else out of any other industry, from the big screen to the stage in New York, and put them in my world and see if they could survive. Because I'm not sure they could. We're a very unique skill set, and the guys that can do it at the caliber that the guys do at the top of the chain, I think, are some of the best entertainers in the world.
Well, we've even seen it when they have celebrities come into, guest host or guest appearance or whatever. And
Jay Leno.
Like 9 out of 10, it looks awkward as hell.
Yeah.
Sure. Or I mean, even going a step further, take guys out of the professional athletes. Guys like Rampage and Tito who have kind of come into our company, or King Mo for that matter. Very very established in their world of mixed martial arts, but you put them in the professional wrestling world, and they're very out of place. And these are high level athletes, and so and you ask any of those guys, and they have nothing but the ultimate respect for what we're able to do out there, for what we're able to put our bodies through on a consistent basis. So I think we need to kind of turn that corner with the public perception of what professional wrestling is, and get people to stop looking their nose down at it and start appreciating it for the great entertainment that it really is.
I think for the most part you have. I think it's just it's a very select few. The few that still pull that wrestling's fake thing. It's very much a minority,
and they'll never change.
Well, I'm going to slightly disagree, because one thing I've noticed is when you go out and you try to get a little more mainstream press,
sure,
or when you start trying to go pitch guys for more relevant, pop culture type things, there's still a stigma attached to wrestling that's hard to shake.
No kidding.
And, part of it's due to ourselves and the way and maybe the way that we allow the business to be ran. But that being said, I do think there's still a perception of wool being tried to be pulled over eyes, when that hasn't been the case for a long time.
Right.
Now, I mean, we're talking about being entertaining, and I think you're a person who's extremely entertaining to watch in the ring, and I think you're one of those. I respect the hell out of you is how entertaining, not only with just planning out a match and actually competing, but the little things that you throw in there for the people watching, and kind of just hidden highlights, if you will, in your matches. Do you think about, think about it beforehand, what you're going to do? Like the one I have in my head that sticks out is you versus Sting. You're going to put him in the Scorpion Deathlock. And you kind of just you can't really figure it out, and you just look down at him and you go, how the hell do you do this? I mean, like little things, like little nuances here and there that you throw in there. I mean, your matches with Bobby Roode that you're doing, where you guys are both trying to out heel each other. It makes it a lot more fun for just the standard wrestling fan, but also maybe just the fair weather fan. I mean, is this something that you just think about beforehand, or is it an off-the-cuff thing, very much improvised?
I'll make sure both. I think what I have learned over the years, I come from background and the kind of wrestling that once I broke into business that became real popular was more, the athletic type of wrestling, where the importance was always put on what's happening in the ring as far as the athleticism or the type of maneuvers that are being performed. The Japanese style, the strong, the Ring of Honor style that a lot of us came from. And I think what's lost in that a lot of times, and I think, early in my career as well, is you forget what the name of the game is, and that's entertaining people.
Yeah.
And so, when you refocus what you're out there to do, those little things, those moments to me are more important. I've done every move I possibly cared to do in my career, and some I can't do anymore because I'm a little longer in the tooth than I used to be.
Right.
But at this point now, it's not about having that next 5-star match. It's about making sure I go out there and entertain the people. And so, if I'm in the ring and I'm amusing myself while I'm in there,
yeah,
which a lot of time is where a lot of these things come from, I'm trying to amuse myself. I figure if I'm amusing myself and I'm having fun while I'm in there, then people should be having fun while they're watching me. And I think, a lot of guys, myself included, have suffered from that over the years where you sometimes take it a little too seriously.
Right.
And because we all have so much respect for wrestling, and I do take it seriously, but you got to remember to have fun. If you're out there to have fun, people are there to have fun. And so if you try to do that while you're in the ring and have those little moments like that and know that they're important, I just think it ups the overall entertainment value and fun factor for everybody.
Well, and it certainly takes you off of, that perceived pedestal of the fan watching these two guys in the ring, and where you're doing a lot of stuff in there that it's, I don't want to say godlike, but it's, you know what I mean? Like you're
At 34 years old, I wouldn't try it.
Exactly, but you're untouchable at that point.
You can compare me to God. I don't mind.
Well, okay.
God doesn't mind either.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that he or she doesn't.
Got a text from him. He's
well,
cool with it.
Of course. But I think it puts you on not so much their level, but it also brings you down because, like you said, you're trying to entertain yourself as much as the fans out there, and yes, it does lend a lot more entertainment to them.
There's a lot of ways to entertain wrestling fans, and entertainment comes in different forms for different people. And for every person who gets entertained by breaking the match down and what could have been better or how many stars it deserved, according to their criteria,
right.
For every one of those fans, there's 100 who just want to watch, and they want to watch it for the very basic, good versus evil, have fun, root somebody on, boost somebody. And it's really that simple. And the more friends that I have who are more casual wrestling fans who now have gotten back into it because they know me, and when I talk to them about what they're liking or why they watch, 9 times out of 10, man, it comes down to that. It comes down to having fun, getting into the characters, getting into the storylines, even if it's not what the pundits think is the best. People don't have those criteria. They don't know what makes a 3-star match or a 5-star match. They just know that like some matches better than others. Some matches are more entertaining than others.
Yep.
They like the storylines. They like the characters. They want to see what's going to happen next. I think it's important for us to remember that when we're putting our product out there, that those are really, that's the bread and butter of where our fan base needs to be. Now, the diehards, I mean, they're so integral to what we do, but they're always going to be there.
Yes.
Right. And so we, and a lot of them, you're never going to make happy.
Right.
It's almost impossible. So let's make sure that we're targeting the rest of the casual fans, because those are the ones we need to come back, and we need them to see that wrestling's fun and wrestling's cool again, and it's a good way to spend a Thursday night.
Now, you're talking about the 5-star, the 3-star matches and people that break it down. Do you really get into reading, quote-unquote, the dirt sheets, or get into, like, people on Twitter and stuff like that? Or is it just, it's kind of in the background and occasionally you'll read it?
I'm a guy who, I've always liked to keep my thumb on the pulse of what's going on.
Sure.
Take everything with a grain of salt that it needs to be taken with. But it's good to see. It's good to see the reactions. It's good to see feedback. It's good to see what people are thinking, feeling, saying. That being said, you always remember what percentage of the overall picture that makes up.
Right.
So, I do think, though, at some point, and I've talked about this, we've talked about this in the locker room, there's going to come a point in time where once my website's up and running in its full capabilities, I would actually like to do reviews of guys that do reviews and give them star ratings on the reviews and just basically out them for missing some of the most blatant and important parts of the matches while they're worrying about, did this guy flub that move up?
That is an excellent idea. I like
that.
So,
there's been and then just start having guest reviews where if you want to review, one of these dinks reviews or whatever, you want to take a guy, and you can review his thing and break it down and see where a guy failed, or maybe a couple of too many words in this section. Maybe use some punctuation. I could have gave you an extra half a star for your review, but seeing if you don't know the difference between they are and there, I got to knock you down a whole star. So 2 stars.
The greatest review that was ever written.
Right.
Yeah.
I love it.
All right, so we got, again, Bound for Glory coming up this Sunday, live on pay-per-view from San Diego. Did you spend much time? Have you spent much time wrestling on the West Coast?
Not wrestling a lot. I've been out there, was out there occasionally. NWA Hollywood was out there for a while. I was a part of that, sporadically for Pro Wrestling Guerrilla over the years. But I have spent some time in San Diego before my wrestling career. Probably doing some things I shouldn't talk about on the air. It's kind of close to the border down there. You guys can all figure that out.
Yep.
But, I always like the West Coast. I always like the energy out there. I got, my best friend now, actually, the gentleman, Justin, who got me into wrestling. He lives out in L.A. now. So I'm going to go and cruise out to L.A. the day before and hang out with him and go see the Guar concert for the first time.
There you go.
Close personal friends of his. So he's going to give me the VIP treatment at the old Guar show in L.A. And then Saturday, head on down for Fan Fest, where everybody can shake my hand and use the correct manners when asking please and thank you for my autograph. And then we'll move on to Sunday for the big pay-per-view. Obviously, I've got a huge match ahead of me. There's a big match for the company in general with Bully Ray taking on AJ Styles.
Yep.
There's so a little power struggle going on there. You got Dixie Carter running her yap. So see what she's got to say, and it should be an entertaining night overall. And of course, the Kurt Angle in the Hall of Fame. So
it's a hell of a card. I mean, Kurt Angle, Bobby Roode, Sting, Magnus, the tag team match. You got the Gauntlet pre-show, the Knockouts match. Of course, the world title, Bully Ray and AJ, like you mentioned, and of course the Ultimate X match with yourself, Manic, Chris Sabin, Jeff Hardy, Samoa Joe. It's a pretty stacked card up and down. Now, of course, the wild card, which of course, if you've been following Impact Wrestling, where's Hulk?
Where's Hulk?
Where is Hulk? I know, of course, if we read, the internet and whatnot, he's in a little bit of he's got a decision to make, basically, whether he wants to come back or move on to something else. Your thoughts as on a whole, because as a wrestling fan, I have my own personal opinions about Hulk and, how he's been carried and the character he's been doing. But I just, as an employee of TNA, what's your thoughts on Hulk, positive or negative, having him as part of the organization and part of the show?
Oh, well, and I've said this before. I mean, Hulk Hogan's still the most recognizable face and name in professional wrestling history. I don't think anybody can dispute that. So, I mean, to have that guy associated with your company, in my opinion, could be nothing but a positive. And then, the addition to that is you got to make sure you're utilizing him in all the right facets. And obviously, again, he's recognizable. His face and name is recognizable. So, the more you can get that out there with the TNA Impact Wrestling name attached to it, you got to think that's a plus for the company. So, I've gotten to know Hulk a little bit living down here and stuff, and one thing I say is he really loves wrestling. He's really into it. He spends his time watching it. He's up to date on things. His mind thinks wrestling, vast majority of the day. So, and for a guy who's been doing it as long as he has at the level he has, still have that commitment and that passion is something that I think is important to tap into. And I think he's definitely an asset for the company. And that being said, get the financial aspect, has to work for everybody, and the situation has to be comfortable. And if it works out to get Hulk back in the fold, I'm definitely all for it.
Dot all the I's, cross all the T's, and let's get back to business.
Have a couple vitamins, say a couple prayers, and you're all set.
I saw that. I actually just I watched last night the week before his Impact, where you dropped the vegan vitamins on him.
And legitimately, I just had some in my bag, and I thought, Hulk's got a big decision tonight, and he's kind of, he'll rip me a little bit on the whole not eating meat thing, because I'm, Hulk's diet is, say prayers, eat vitamins, 16 steaks.
Right.
Have a cow.
Eat your protein, brother. Right. That's cool. So I introduced him some vegan vitamins, and I just kind of threw them at him and see how he reacted, and he was a little receptive to it. So hopefully it helped him make the right decision.
Hopefully. Just on a personal level, I mean, like I said, we were at Slammiversary in June, and being a wrestling fan, being 34 years old, with the exception of one appearance with the NWO, I hadn't seen Hulk since the 80s in an old Boston Garden match. So he's a draw, like you said, and he can only be positive for a company. That being said, there's people who always want to talk and want to have their opinions about it and want to pull the one more match thing. And for me, I'd rather him do what he's been doing with Impact Wrestling and TNA, because I just, especially since I recently watched the movie again, but every time I hear that one more match thing, I just think of the movie The Wrestler, and it's like I don't want to see Hulk as that. I think he's doing well. I don't, come out, cut a promo. You don't need to see him rip the shirt and drop the leg, brother.
I'm not gonna. I don't think anybody's looking for Hulk to, come back in any type of, even part-time capacity of wrestling.
Right.
But for that right situation, I think he said, physically, if his body tells him, that it's the good thing to do. That he's got. I'm sure mentally, I know he's probably got 100 more matches in him. But it comes down to the physical part and the right situation, the right time. Let's be honest, man. Who would like to see Hulk Hogan versus Austin Aries?
Okay.
I mean,
you just convinced me. Book it.
So if you're good, now I know some people go, oh, that that's not going to be a draw. Who the hell is Austin Aries? Tell you what, I'll give Hulk Hogan the greatest match he's had in the last decade and a half. So
I say we book it right now. Bound for Glory 2014.
I'd love to get that opportunity. Lock up with the Hulkster and man, I'd have to eat about maybe 6 whole bottles of vegan vitamins.
You might
say my prayers now.
you might have to switch over to a few steaks for that one. I don't know. I'm just thinking.
Maybe try to feed him some tofu or something.
Get him off his game.
Agrees with his digestive process.
Yeah, that might be his kryptonite. You never know.
You never know. According to a lot of people, they say soy increases your estrogen levels, tenfold. Of course, and they say the same thing about marijuana. And I said if that was the case, I'd have bigger breasts than most of the knockouts. So don't believe all the myths you hear. So.
Well, I think I read that on Wikipedia somewhere.
Right.
It was
the same guy who wrote mine. Yeah.
Right. It was right after what they wrote on yours.
Well, it's been awesome talking to Austin Aries. Bound for Glory once again, live on pay-per-view this Sunday, October 20th, live from San Diego. Bill, you have one more thing?
Before we let you go, I had sent out to Reddit and said if anyone wanted to ask you some questions, because I usually get some pretty good answers from Reddit, and you have a lot of fans over there. They really appreciate what you do. So I got a couple questions for you. We'll just fire them off quick. Someone asked, do you feel as if you need at least one run in the WWE to validate your career?
Nope.
I think that's a great answer. Only you know if your career is validated, and I think you're doing a hell of a job.
Maybe I'm going to go down as the greatest professional wrestler to never work for Vince McMahon.
There you go.
Okay, so you'd be on Sting's level then.
No, he said greatest.
Point,
well, I know. He did say greatest. I know.
Great's such a loose term. I mean, what's great really? That's everybody quantifies it a little differently. So, but yeah, who knows? Maybe that would be my legacy. I'd certainly be fine with that. I'm making a good living. I'm happy. I get to stay true to the things that are important to me. So, I'm fine with my career, whether or not that ever happens.
Who do you think is the second greatest man that ever lived?
Well, that's a tough question. And like I just said, great is it's a loose term. I'm not calling myself the smartest man that ever lived or the strongest or the longest. Those are all things you can measure somewhat. Great, kind of hard to measure. I don't know who the second greatest man that ever lived would be. I'll have to think about that one. Maybe say Einstein. I seemed pretty smart. Kind of looked at life like a child. Didn't really conform to too much of what was going on around him, and was just an overall genius. So he's definitely up there in the top 5.
So we're looking Austin Aries, then Einstein.
I'd also like to nominate myself, just in case.
Okay, and Mike. Okay.
Sure, and Mike.
Exactly.
He's so great, he just goes by one name, like Madonna.
There you go.
Right. And I got this other one here, and I thought it was funny, so I figured I'd throw it at you. What is it like, as a grown man who is presumably not a monarch, to walk into a tailor and commission a cape to be made?
It's great. I mean, you know what the great part about it is when the tailor looks at you and nods her head, goes, "Yep, exactly." She just knows that that's befitting of someone of my caliber. Think about it. Who wears capes? Royalty, superheroes, Austin Aries.
Again, the man is just full of great answers, and believe me, I've been thrilled to be able to talk to you. This has been just very entertaining.
And once again, throwing it out, TNA, Bound for Glory, live on pay-per-view, Sunday, October 20th, live from San Diego. Austin Aries in the Ultimate X match for the X Division title. Before you go, Option C, is that like a constant year-round thing? That whenever you get it, you can just cash it in?
Well, I think it's kind of around Destination X. Whoever happens to have it at that time,
gotcha,
would have the option to cash it in. But with the Hulk Hogan status, and I mean, who knows? They could change the rules on that tomorrow for all I know.
They're going to repeal Option
But as
C.
of right now, it's supposed to be whoever has it around Destination X has the opportunity at Destination X to cash it in for the championship. So we'll see. Hopefully, I'll capture the title here on Sunday, and if I feel like it, I'll hold it until then.
There you go. There you go. Austin Aries on the Mike and Billy Show. Thanks for talking to us, Austin.
Follow me at Austin Aries. You can get all my goodness on there too, and all my website up, and you get all the information at Austin Aries on Twitter.
And looking forward to the reviews of reviewers.
You got it.
Thanks, Austin. Anytime you're in Boston, come on by.
You got it. Thanks, guys. Take care.